Hey guys, it's Sam Norris here again with another property video for you, and today we're going to talk about 5 people that I think all budding property investors should get in their power team. Property is about patience. Hi guys, welcome back to the video. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do me a massive favor and do so by clicking the subscribe button below. And you see that little bell next to it? You touch that and you'll also be notified of all new videos that I post to my channel. Now, before the break, I was telling you that today we're going to talk about 5 people that I think actually are the 5 most important people that you should have in your power team as a budding new investor. And let's kick off with number 1, which is a solicitor. Now, I'm actually going to split this into 2 because for those of you that know me, you'll know that I speak about this quite a lot. And if any of you have had the pleasure of speaking to me on the phone, or a lot of the time listening to me ramble on, you would have heard me give this advice as well. I actually think you should have 2 solicitors, and here's why. For me, if we're just trying to simplify things, when it comes to purchasing property and transactions, as particularly financial transactions, there are 2 main types of transactions. There are simple and there are complicated. Complicated would be things like bridging finance, when you're purchasing a property at auction possibly, when you're buying a commercial property, or when you're using maybe development finance to acquire your property. And for this, you really need a commercial conveyancer. That is somebody that actually understands how to work with these types of lenders that are going to lend these kinds of funds, and also work with their solicitors and understand if it's a commercial asset, actually understand the property itself. So it's really good to get a very, very experienced commercial conveyancers, but they can be quite expensive. So you don't really want to have to lay out potentially a few grand every time you come to refinance your properties. You might come to the end of a fixed rate, 2 years, and you've got, you come to want to remortgage, and it's a relatively simple transaction for a solicitor to do. So I would also recommend that you get a relatively inexpensive kind of mass market style solicitor on board as well, that you can go to. It's a bit call centery, it's a bit tick boxy, but it's not going to cost you more than 500 or 600 quid, and they'll get the job done relatively swiftly and easily, but won't cost you an arm and a leg, but they will be able to handle a transaction like that. So number 1 in the power team is actually 2 people. Get 2 solicitors, one that can deal with the complicated stuff and one that can deal with the more simplistic stuff to save you a little bit of cash, because they're not going to cost you as much money. Now, number 2 is an accountant, okay? Accountants are so important. They can be a little bit like the bane of my life as a broker. Accountants or tax advisors, I'd definitely be choosing a tax advisor who is also an accountant, a tax accountant, to advise you. But a lot of the time, accountants are trying to make you as tax efficient as possible. And us brokers want to see you earning loads and loads of money, because when it comes to getting residential mortgages, that obviously massively helps. Even when it comes to getting buy-to-let mortgages, a lot of lenders will have a minimum income requirement that we like you to hit. So sometimes, accountants and brokers can be at loggerheads with one another, but I try and get on with accountants as best as I possibly can, because I know how vital they are to my client's power team. Now, a good tax accountant should be somebody who has experience of working with property investors, because that's what you are. So they'll understand your strategy, they'll understand your long-term plans, and they can advise you on how to set up things like limited companies and how to be as tax efficient as possible. It's so important to get this done right at the very start. Start as you mean to go on. And a good tax accountant is going to be somebody that can really advise you of that right from the get-go. So they're massively important. Now, number 3 on your power team is somebody that maybe doesn't feature very highly on most sort of power team lists, and that's a mentor. Now, I'm not talking about going on a Samuel Leeds course and paying somebody 25, 30 grand a year to to teach you how to be a property investor. I'm talking about just finding somebody, networking, and finding somebody that you look up to, that you can you can build a relationship with, that will actually be able to support you and maybe answer questions when you're doing things that you're new to and you don't know the answer to. There are plenty of fantastic investors and developers out there that will be more than happy to meet with you for a coffee, chat through some of their their great successes and their great failures in their career, and impart on you some of this knowledge. And most of them, they're not looking for payment on this. There might be a way that you can actually repay them. You might be able to help them source some property. You might have somebody that you could introduce to them that would be really, really beneficial. So think outside the box of this thing. Don't just chuck money at people to mentor you. Think outside the box and go networking and go looking for people that you might actually be able to become friends with. You don't even know. You might even know somebody in your family or in your group of friends who has experience working in property, and no doubt they're going to be really, really happy to sit down, happy for you to pay for a coffee with them to wrap their minds and get some info off them, and they can act as a kind of mentor to you. So number 3, a mentor, really, really, really important. Now, another one that I think is really, really important, and this is where, when I look at my clientele and I look at the clients that are doing really, really well, really successful property investors, and those that are maybe a little bit not less successful, that makes it sound like they're not doing particularly well, but maybe they could be doing more. One person that those successful investors tend to have as part of their team is a virtual assistant. Now, people don't usually think of a power team and think virtual assistant, but if you think about what it's like to be a property investor, you've got to have so many plates spinning. There's so many things that you've got to do. A little bit like me as a broker, we've got tons of things that we need to do, lots of different jobs all on a daily basis. And as an investor, think about it. You've got to find properties. You've got to deal with estate agents. You've got to be putting offers in and keeping track of those offers. You might be trying to find investors that are going to be investing in your business, so you can be networking, business developing, marketing yourselves online. You're going to be marketeers. Maybe you'll have your own YouTube channel that you are doing videos like this on, in the hope that people that are investors are going to reach out to you and want to work with you. Transactions that are underway, you've got to work with your solicitor and your broker and your other members of your power team in order to get everything all together and right. And once you've got your property, you need to manage it. Even if you're going to employ a property manager, which might be a sort of a number 6 on this list, you've got so many plates spinning, and the more properties you buy, the more plates you've got to spin. So having a virtual assistant that can act as like a PA, someone to remind you to do things, is going to be so vitally important to your success. And you can go and find them on websites like Upwork, or reach out to some other property investors and find out if they have VAs, and if they do, where they found them from. At the moment, we have actually been focusing on getting an employee into our business at Grand Union Finance, a physical employee, but the next employee that we bring in is going to be virtual. So we know the importance of having somebody on hand that's organized, that can just take your work processes to the next level, and they can even do things like following up with offers and that sort of stuff. There's so many jobs that they can take off of your hands, and I think it's so important to have somebody like that available to you. And if you're not comfortable with your VA being based overseas, there are a ton of virtual assistants that are based in the UK. My mum is actually a virtual assistant. If you want a UK virtual assistant, let me know. I'm happy to put you in touch with my mum, Mrs. Norris, the older Mrs. Norris, not my Mrs. Norris, obviously. And I'm sure she'll be able to help. So wasn't even planning on pitching my mum on this video, but there you go. And the last person on the list is, of course, drumroll please, your mortgage broker. Of course it is. I've got to, of course, push myself. I obviously am a mortgage broker, but I specialise very particularly in working with investors and developers. And I think it's vitally important that you have a broker that understands these things. There are two different types of broker essentially. One that deals very much in the residential, and one that deals will deal with the more specialist side of things. And you really need somebody with the experience of dealing with these sorts of complicated transactions that understands not only all the different finances that you're going to need from your mortgage, which is going to include potentially buy-to-let mortgages, HMO mortgages, service accommodation mortgages, mortgages where you can use them for social housing, but also maybe commercial mortgages, bridging finance, development finance, maybe even business loans as well. You need a broker that understands all of those things, and here is the kicker, you also need a broker that understands your strategies. I spend a lot of time talking to my clients about their goals, their long-term goals, their strategies, because a mortgage is just one transaction. It just forms a small piece of your long-term property strategy and property business plan. And you need to find a broker that has worked with enough investors to understand all of these types of strategies, and can, offer you advice in return, not necessarily just as a broker, but give you some advice on actually how how their other clients work, how they operate, impart on you some knowledge from their client bank. So there we go. 5 people that I think all new property investors should get onto their power team. So number 1, we had solicitors, okay? Actually, we had 2 solicitors. Rewind and listen to that a little bit again. It's vitally important that you understand why it's 2. Number 2 was accountants. Very, very important that they understand the world of tax. So a tax accountant, tax advisor, vital for your success. Number 3, a mentor. Not necessarily someone that you have to chuck money at, but somebody that you can rely on and you can learn from, that's happy to impart their knowledge onto you. Number 4 was a virtual assistant, somebody that can help you out from maybe across the world in organising your day-to-day business life. And 5, of course, most importantly, a very good and experienced mortgage broker. So I hope this video has been really, really helpful to you guys. If it has, please click on the little thumbs up button, the like button, or leave me a comment below to let me know that you've enjoyed it. Or if you've got any questions, of course, drop them in the comments below. If you do have some questions that you're not really happy with everyone seeing in the comments that are public, obviously below, then go follow me on Instagram @thesamnorris and pop me a direct message with your question, and I am more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. So thank you again for watching all the way to the end. Have a fantastic week, and I'll catch you on the next video.